Hi and a very good day, Doctor. Before going into the topic, I would like to introduce myself and my teammates. I am Norfati Zulaika and my teammates are Shaharupa, Muhammad Afiq Daniel, Nur Shifa, and Cindy Lee Jojo. A video that my team chose for our video assignment is Snack Attack. Snack Attack is a short story between an old lady and a young man at a train station. Both were confronted with a social conflict that resulted in a misunderstanding. What are their reactions to the situation? How it relates with the topic that we have learned in class? Without delay, let's move on to our next slide.
In this video, we are going to evaluate the story of Snack Attack based on the theory that we have learned. Without further ado, let's move on to the synopsis of Snack Attack. There is an old lady at the train station. The train station has vending machines and she decides to buy a snack while waiting for the train. After that, she tries to get a snack from the vending machine, but the snacks get stuck. Therefore, she has to try to retrieve the stuck but most desired snack. The old lady finally gets her cookies unstuck from the vending machine and decides to sit on a bench to enjoy her snack. When she finally sits down to enjoy her snack, she looks up and realizes a teen boy who is obnoxiously listening to loud music is helping himself to her cookies. She does everything she can to get the teenager to rectify this situation. She storms and yells. She yanks out his headphones and scolds him. Meanwhile, all the boy responds with is a smile and eats another cookies. Finally, there is only one cookie left. The boy picks up the cookie, breaks it in half, and gives one half to the old lady and keeps the other half for himself. The old lady is becoming furious. She crumbles her half of the cookie and storms off onto her train. When the old lady gets on the train, she sits down and opens her purse to get out her train ticket. As she opening her purse, she sees her pack of cookies still unopened in her bag. At that moment, she realizes that the cookies she had been yelling about were not even her own. The boy had graciously shared his snack with her. That's all for the story of Snack Attack. Next, I will pass the presentation to Fatih.
Thank you, Cindy, for your great explanation just now. Now, me, Norfati Zulaika, will present our next point, which is the interpretation according to perception and attribution. In my opinion, based on a story titled Snack Attack, it is closely related to one of the topics that I have learned before, which is Chapter 4, Perception, Attribution, and Management of Diversity. Firstly, in this chapter, I have learned about perception, and I believe that the scenario in Snack Attack is related to perception. Before I go into detail regarding the correlation between the scenario and perception, let me explain a little bit about what perception is. Perception is the process by which individuals select, organize, and interpret the input from their sense to give meaning and order to the world around them. People try to make sense of their environment and the objects, events, and other people in it. There are three components of perception, which are firstly, a perceiver. Perceiver is the person that is trying to interpret some observation that he or she has just made or the input from his or her sense. Secondly, a target. A target of perception is whatever the perceiver is trying to make sense of. The target can be another person, a group of people, an event, a situation, an idea, a noise, or anything else the perceiver focuses on. Thirdly, a situation. Situation is the context in which perception takes place. Based on the Snack Attack video, an old lady was waiting for the train while sitting next to a young man with a mohawk hairstyle. The young man was eating the biscuit, but the old lady thought that it was her biscuit, when actually it was not hers, but it belonged to the young man. The old lady, as a perceiver might perceive him, which is a target, as a rude young man, and his behavior and style is the situation that influence how she perceives him. This is what we call a perception. This scenario is the reason why it is related to perception. Apart from that, we also need to know that there are several factors that influence each perception, but for the snake attack video, I will only touch one factor that can be seen in snake attack. Firstly, as we all know, schema is one of the factors that influence perception and the characteristics of the perceiver. Schemas are abstract knowledge structures that are stored in memory and allow people to organize and interpret information about a given target of perception. There are two functionalities of schemas, which are functional and dysfunctional. In this video, there was a situation that was related to a dysfunctional, which is a stereotype. Stereotype is a set of overly simplified and often inaccurate beliefs about the typical characteristics of a particular group. For example, when it comes to gender stereotypes, most people believe that pink is suitable for girls only and blue is suitable for boys. In the snake attack video, as mentioned earlier, there was a young man with a mohawk hairstyle and he was listening to a rock genre music while playing a game, and he was sitting next to the old lady. People nowadays usually perceive people just by looking at our style and outfit, because usually our style represents our personality. For example, when we see a man wearing a suit and tie, we might perceive him as someone who is mature and professional, while when we see someone who is wearing ripped jeans, sleeveless shirts and sneakers, we might perceive him as someone who likes to party. Hence, for this scenario, just by looking at the young man's style, the stereotype that the society might have towards those who have a mohawk hairstyle is that they look punk and wild. For example, in snake attack, the old lady was irritated by the young man's behavior towards her, and she does not hesitate to yell at him without asking him politely the reason why the young man picked her skirt. The old lady might perceive those who look punk and wild as someone who is poorly educated, playful, and has no manners. However, at the end of the scenario, she noticed that she has an inaccurate perception towards him, and she smiled at him when she already know the truth that the young man was actually sharing his biscuit. Therefore, from the story, we can conclude that perception is related to the scenario in snake attack. Next, Afil will explain further about the interpretation according to biases in perception and attribution. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatin, for the great explanation about perception. Now, I want to talk about biases in perception in the video. Before we analyze whether the biases in the video or not, so first we need to know what is the definition of the biases. So, a biases is basically a systematic tendency to use or interpret the information about a target in a way that result in inaccurate perception. There are 6 effects of biases in perception: primary effects, contrast effect, halo effects, similar to me effect, harshness, linearity, and average tendency, and finally is knowledge of predictor. So, based on the video, I think that the effect that interrelate in the video is primacy effects and horn effects. So, what is primacy effect? So, primacy effect is the initial information that a perceiver have about a target having inordinately significant effect on the perceiver perception and evaluation of the target. So, in other words, that the primacy effect refers to the tendency to recall information presented at the start and of the list better than the information in the middle or the end. Okay, so when we look at the snake attack situation, we can analyze that she evaluated the man when the man shows that he was eaten what she thought that her snack, but actually snack. It is because the snack is placed next to the man, but as soon as the woman sit on the bench next to the snack, into his snack, she thinks that it is her snack. So the initial piece of information is the snack beside of her, and she thought it was the snack. So the situation indeed biases that have a privacy effects. So next is the horn effect. So the horn effect is the most visible in the video. Horn effect is a negative first impression, leading us to treat someone less favorable. So the old woman has a negative effect on the man because she thinks that he stole her snack just in front of her and does not feel guilty about taking the snack. In this situation, the man shows her perspective that he treated the old woman poorly and thus give the old woman a negative first impression of the man. Next, I want to talk about attributional biases. First, I want to explain attributional theories. It describes how people explain the cause of behavior, focus on why people behave the way they do. However, biases in attribution exist, and biases reduce the accuracy of attribution. So the attributional biases that exist in the video is fundamental attributional error, also known as correspondence biases or over-attributional effects. It's the tendency for the people to over-emphasize somebody or the personality-based explanation for behavior observed in other while under-emphasizing situational explanation. In the snack attack video, the elderly lady thinks that the guy stole her snack. The elderly lady and we, as a viewer, thought he was disrespectful without understanding why he stole the snack in the first place. So in this case, the old woman overemphasized the man that took what she thought her snack. Supposedly, the woman should talk over with the young man first before jump into the conclusion to prevent misunderstanding. So next, I will pass the presentation to Shah. Thank you.
Thank you, Afiq. I am Shaharuba, would like to continue my presentation with the moral values I've learned from the video. Based on my opinion after I watched a video from YouTube titled The Snake Attack, the old lady is so forgetful that she forgets she already bought a packet of biscuits. But once she saw the same packet of biscuits with the young boy, she thought he is eating her biscuits. From this situation, the moral value I have learned was do not be too greedy but learn to share your food with others. But eventually, the young boy was so kind and humble. When the old lady took his biscuits, he just kept quiet because he do not mind sharing his food with another person, even if the person is a stranger. But the old lady was angry with him, thinking he is going to finish her biscuits. She threw her anger on him, but the young boy broke the biscuits into two and took the half of it only. Once the train arrived, she saw she had the biscuits in her handbag and then realized she made a big mistake that she was actually eating his biscuits. Then she regret of her bad behavior. Here, I would like to say, learn to be patient in any situation. She was just able to smile at him. So, from the video, the moral values I learned that do not simply blame the others without knowing the truth. Second, do not be selfish. Third, attitude doesn't come based on your age, but from your behavior. And the next one is learn to be kind and sharing. Following is learn to respect everyone, either elders or young ones. So finally, the moral value of the story is sharing is caring. That's all from me. I hope everyone enjoyed watching my video. I would like to pass the presentation to next presenter, Shifa.
Thank you, Shaharupa, for the great explanation. Before I start, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Noshifa and I would like to conclude this short video. In conclusion, this short video demonstrates how important these three things. Firstly, to avoid making snap judgment about people based on their outward looks and one's own interpretation of the circumstance. Snap judgment are a sort of positional thinking in which one considers a situation to be either right or wrong, good or bad, and desirable or undesirable. Every time we make one of these judgments, we are essentially admit someone or something into our life or turning away from them. By making inquiries our default setting, we can protect ourselves from making hasty decisions. When we have a healthy dose of curiosity, we leave ourselves open to new experience and are more receptive to new knowledge. Instead of passing judgment or making assumptions, we should try to comprehend the meaning of the statement being discussed by first formulating questions that will help us do so. We can also phrase inquiries in such a way that do not put the person being questioned on the defensive and hence prevent the conversation from taking place. It is important to refrain from making assumptions and judgment about other people. Also, we should make an effort to empathize with other people and try to view the world from their point of view for just a little while. Second, respect for the elder is really important because they have had a different set of experience than we have. When we go back in time, the world was a very different place. We are all aware that different sorts of experience lead to different forms of wisdom, and evolution is occurring at a breakneck speed. If we compare our differences with their differences, we might learn something from their environment that we could never have learned from our own. Not only that, having respect for one another fosters personal development. We feel that there are many benefits for young people who learn to respect their elders. It takes effort and practice to show proper respect to one's elders. The cultivation of personal instrument of mastery begins with developing one's own self-control, which is necessary for showing respect to one's fellow humans. These strategies for mastery are easily transferable to more challenging endeavors that call for one to exercise self-control and put one's own plan on hold. Therefore, each step of the process of respecting one's elder is an accomplishment in and of itself. In addition to that, the point of the story was to demonstrate how important it is to look past preconceived notions and to have the generosity to share something with other people. Being generous means providing others with pleasant experience without expecting anything in return. Acts of generosity are done with the intention of bettering the life of those around us. Generosity, on the other hand, is distinguished from so-called pure altruism by the fact that the giving stand to gain from their actions. Generosity can take many forms, including financial contribution, time spent volunteering, the donation of goods or blood, and many others. Last but not least, generosity contributes to the enhancement of interpersonal connections. Generosity, as most of us are aware, is a fantastic strategy for fostering social connections. The mere act of giving causes our brain to regard the recipient as more likable and more deserving to receive. These emotions are applicable to everyone who receives something, including completely strangers, friends, co-workers, family members, children, and spouse. So, that's all from us. Thank you. So, that's all from Group 3. Thank you for watching and hopefully you enjoyed it.